Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO at Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences per year for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast, where I'll be speaking to industry experts to bring you insights and advice to support your business journeys. In today's episode, I'll be talking to Troy Morgan, former Head of Wellbeing Strategy at Springday, the digital platform that helps organizations to measure and improve the well-being of their people. That's a long title. Troy, how are you?
I'm really well, Paul. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, that is a very long title, isn't it?
It was a mouthful and a half, but look, hey, really excited just to get into the world of corporate wellness. You know, most of the listeners are coming from fitness, but I think the worlds are starting to collide a lot, and maybe already have, but maybe not as much as people think. So maybe we kick off with just, you know, your role at Springday, and you know, and kind of the story of Springday a little bit for the listeners maybe not too familiar with the platform.
Yeah, Springday was a startup around 10, 11 years ago, probably now. I was an early investor in Springday, so had
Had
a
great exit.
Yeah, all the fun of the startup world, which was a really sharp learning curve coming from fitness and then moving into corporate health and understanding the different complexities and also the rate of return in investment organizations expect. And corporate health really has evolved to that expectation of rate of returns on investment and moving more into those boardroom conversations where when I came originally from fitness and well-being, it was, how do you know it worked, Troy? I just know I'm the fitness and well-being guy. This stuff.
Trust me. Everyone will get the bug.
Yes. And that was enough probably 10 years ago. It's not enough today. There needs to be strong data. There needs to be strong outcome links. There needs to be strong science around what we're doing.
And so the business model of Springday is charging who? Maybe that's really good for people to
Organization sponsored wellbeing. So organizations invest in a platform, and then it's individual journeys that aggregate together to create the rate of return on investment. And most wellbeing platforms and corporate health platforms work to that capacity today because that's just the expectation. So really it's around creating ecosystems that help the employee navigate all the different investments that organizations make today in the wellbeing of their employees. Traditionally, they were stuck in silos with no data connection, with no real evidence of whether it was making a difference. I talk about this term greenwashing. Well, it was well-being washing. Let's just tick all the boxes, look like we're doing things. We're an employer of choice. That certainly has changed.
And so you're saying that's not happening now? Because in some of the circles, it feels like that's still because if other employees have it, therefore I'll do it, and therefore we'll tick the box, or
still definitely happening. Still definitely happening. Not as the more sophisticated organizations have been on this journey for quite some time. Right. They're really moved forward using it as part of their brand equity for employees, employer of choice, understanding that if they can create small changes in the dials of their employees' well-being, it can have major impacts on productivity and the bottom line of their organization.
And I know you'll share, you know, some of the data in terms of usage is phenomenal. But I think before we actually get into that, for the listeners, it'll be good. I always ask the one question, and they always like me saying the same thing. So I'm going to ask it. So did you find fitness, or did fitness find you? Because the background was fitness before Springday. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Fitness has always been part of my life. My family was a big sport family. I started playing rugby league when I was 4 years old. And
didn't know you were a league boy. Yeah. So by the way, Troy's sitting in Australia right now. I'm sitting in New Zealand. So rugby league's just a, you know, I wasn't gonna say an inferior game of rugby union, but I just put something out there. Sorry.
I did have my time, and you did as well. Still running around playing touch footy. It's always just been part of my life, and moved into that as a career. Started at the Queensland Academy of Sport, working with elite athletes in particularly hockey and cricket and league, but then moved into working with rehabilitation, starting my own business off the back of Queensland Academy of Sport, and then buying an old squash and fitness centre. So I've been involved in fitness for a long time now, and that evolved into working in the corporate sector, particularly in the mining industry. Right. So sitting in the middle of dongers in central Queensland, trying to engage miners in wellbeing is certainly a sharp learning curve in learning how to engage.
And for people listening, and you own your own health club as well. So Willow's Health.
Yeah, still involved in the fitness industry. Willow's Health and Lifestyle Centre in Toowoomba. Also involved in a number of allied health practices as well, and digital platforms across a few different companies.
So you've got a lot of hats that I could feel like I could talk for ages, but I'm going to get going. So I guess for listeners, probably explain what's been the biggest kind of pillars for the growth in corporate wellness and as you've seen it over the last 10 years. I know that's a hard thing to answer, a bit of an open question, but it would be interesting to see your insights. What were the major? Was it COVID that was a big driver of adoption of these type of platforms, or?
It was happening before COVID.
Okay.
Digital platforms certainly shifted the expectations of the delivery of corporate health programs with organisations. Traditionally, before that, it was very much around cheaper gym memberships, looking at what your employment assistance program were, etc., and sitting within the health and safety department. That's moved more into people and culture. So when you're working with large organisations, your main sponsor within that organisation will be people and culture, and really starting to look at how you create better culture for the employees, not just their well-being. Then those digital platforms certainly created a difference where you would be doing a lot of face-to-face interventions and leaving those organisations with PDFs, etc., very hard to scale. So there was no scalability. So you could create influence in small pockets of large organisations. They were crying out for scalability of impact, and that's where the digital platforms really started to play their part.
And is it like every digital platform where if it's a strategy at the top with the C structure, actually implementing it, the engagement is far better, or is it more the fact of actually the employees are crying for this, so they're the ones pushing organisations to make the changes?
Sorry, Paul, I just lost you for a moment there.
Sorry. No, my question was, we see it from a digital fitness platform point of view, is when the C structure fully buy into it, if it's a content strategy or a digital strategy, and then the engagement follows, right? But is it the same in the corporate fitness world, corporate wellness world, in terms of, is it a C street structure that's what makes us unique in terms of us doing, implementing these platforms to better our employees' outcomes and well-being, or is it actually generated by the individuals that want to engage with this?
It is definitely originally has to be driven by C-suite. So when I look at strategy within organisations, I look at 4 really clear journeys. Organisational journey. Now that's the first journey because you need to sell into the C-suite.
Right.
Departmental journey.
Yeah.
And all of these journeys are built on the individual journey, because if you don't create engagement with the individual employees, you're not going to create the influence you need into departmental or organisational change. And then the 4th journey is the content that's being put into the platform, which is often overlooked, because once you have that sale into the organisation, you need the engagement of the individuals and aggregating that data. How do you get that engagement? It comes down to the quality of content, how you organise that content, how you create journeys for the individual, how you actually create that feeling of a personal journey within a large corporate organisation. And that becomes the challenge. But if the C-suite aren't leading that initial engagement, then it makes it very difficult for success across the organisation.
Yeah, and from our experience working with insurers and slightly outside of the fitness industry, we're actually seeing these exactly the same usage patterns. People want regular updates of content. They want to follow persona-led content, and the more relevant content to them. Like if we were talking offline about, they've had 3 back-to-back meetings and then moving to, then being suggested to do some postural adjustments to make sure that that becomes a lot more meaningful and therefore more engaged on the platform. So do you feel like that's a trend that's going to move forward? What we're seeing essentially in digital fitness content, there's no real differences other than the fact that it just has to be relevant content towards them.
Yeah, and that's where fitness has an advantage, because our whole industry is about engagement. Because if we don't engage and sell to members and create great experiences, then we don't have a business. It's exactly the same in organizational health and well-being. It's creating those individual journeys, creating that engagement, and delivering experiences when that individual employee needs it. And the advances in chatbot and AI is really starting to push innovation within that space. And as you just said, being able to deliver content or experiences when the individual employee needs it, when they're at that higher stress level, when they haven't moved for a number of times, the ability to connect wearable data, content, hybrid employees. We're working from home. We're working within the office. So how do we meet those different working experiences now? Really comes down to working together with the wearables, with the content providers, with the platforms.
And we're like, because we always thought this was a bit of a challenge, but it's actually never really come up in terms of employees giving so much data away. But again, if they're giving data away and they're getting value, i.e., linking in the calendar to get personalized content or linking in wearables, it doesn't seem like it's an issue. Is that something that I guess we've only touched the surface on our experience with insurance companies and stuff. So is that something that's been made up, or is that actually an issue?
No, it constantly amazes me that it's always raised at C-suite level. What are the roadblocks for our employees syncing their wearable data into the whatever platform we're putting in place? But very rarely is it a point of concern at that individual level. And I talk about it in the fitness industry as well. For years and years, we've taken so much data from our members, but what value have we provided? So the conversations we have with my team is if you're taking data from a member, what value are we providing back? And it's the same at a corporate health level. So if they're seeking the wearable devices, it's not just to gather information for the organization. What value are we returning to that employee? So it's a constant, and my job as head of wellbeing strategy within Springday was to really look at what value we were returning to the organization with regards to data, aggregated data. What was the value to their departmental lead? So what issues was their department actually facing, and what content did that department lead need to make their team better? And then from an individual point of view, what are we providing back? If your wearable data is showing issues with sleep or stress, then delivering content that's timely and to the point rather than just generic content.
Totally makes sense. And then, like, do you see, I'm going off a bit off script here, but I know I can do that with you, Troy. Like, do you see it as a competitive threat? Because I a lot of listeners and have been brought up a few times in terms of, if they're getting good wellness experiences or fitness experiences through their platform, that actually could be a threat to the overall gym industry. Of course, I would argue that it's not, but I really love your view on that.
I see it more as an opportunity. So obviously, you and I have both been in the industry a long time. We've always talked about this 20% of market share, etc., that hasn't increased. Never increased in our time. This is actually opening up new markets. So people that have not been engaged in their health and well-being, and it's an opportunity with where they spend most of their time is at work. So being able to talk to them directly in a place that they spend most of their time and show how their life can improve through fitness, through well-being, through meditation, movement, whatever it may be, it opens up our market. I think we need to embrace it more than be scared of it.
Yeah, my analogy, which I give a lot, is the fact of actually, and our research shows it, is the more confident a user gets, the more they're wanting those kind of higher end experiences, which the fitness industry is built for. We built those clubs for those top 5-10% of users, right? And so what we've seen is that when people are constantly engaging with content, building their confidence, the next level is always going to be the physical experience, and then they can get hooked, and then it's a vicious cycle, right? But a very good vicious cycle in terms of habit loop, because people are actually exercising more and doing better outcomes. So look, I think we can solve the whole world's obesity crisis just on one call here, Troy.
Exactly. But anecdotal data, seeing those individual stories that flow through the platforms and these large organizations I've worked with, you see it time and time again, that those journeys from having no understanding around what impact well-being played in the individual's life to those running marathons, joining fitness centers, whatever it may be. And it would be a great study to look at.
I was going to say, what commercial fitness operators are doing it well in terms of getting that lead, getting that free. I know it's still going to be a location-based choice if they are building their confidence and using the programs and content available to them in their workplaces. But, is anyone doing it in particularly well?
No, I think it's an opportunity for us, Paul. I think it's just we're still leaving it to luck. Whereas if we can start to build those relationships around what's the next level of experience, going into organizations and doing launches or inviting organizations to launches of new programs, etc., and it becomes a networking experience as well. I think there's a lot of opportunities where we can start to create that connection between the digital experience, the face-to-face experience, and events that then filter through.
Yeah, well, and again, I guess the easiest one is I know everyone's struggling with group exercise talent right now, but actually sending people to a workplace to be a lead generator back to the gym, because they are building their confidence. It's an obvious win for the industry, right? But it has to be a little bit of thinking outside the box, so to speak.
I think so, and I really do see events as an opportunity for the industry to link to those organisational leads and also understand where the organisation is with regards to what they want to change. Traditionally, I think, and I did it myself, fitness, wellbeing, we walk in and we lecture and we talk about what we can do rather than really understanding, okay, as an organisation, what dials are you looking to shift within your employees? And starting to have those boardroom conversations, not fitness conversations. Yeah,
I like that. It's well put. And you mentioned AI, so I think it's important here because I feel like what I've seen at least, the AI getting embedded into a lot of these platforms are far more advanced than the fitness platforms. So what's the future hold for AI in this space?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And COVID, we mentioned COVID earlier and how much organizations shifted into that digital world, the Google Suites, the Teams, those types of things. So it really has become part of the everyday for the employee. Yeah. So the ability to connect into those digital ecosystems of work and completely embed wellbeing is where the future will be. AI being able to understand how many meetings Paul's had in a row. Here's the content that you need. Wearable data, and with some of these research pieces going on right now, where wearable data being looked at in a call center that then looks at heart rate variability and stress levels, and then gives those breaks straight away in the content. Here's a 5-minute breath or a 5-minute meditation to reduce those stress levels.
It's all quantified rather than the person saying, I just need a break. And let's be honest, the people that are working a lot that probably don't even ask for a break, they're the ones that maybe need it the most, right?
Exactly, and being able to put those interventions in. So it really will be around that complete embedding of wellbeing into the normal work life of an employee based on all of the information coming through, whether that's self-reported, whether that's wearable data, whether that's answers to the chatbot. It really is an interesting time.
And because so many organizations have chosen platforms that are so digitally enabled to help them scale and personalize, that's actually an advantage when bringing in AI, right? Like for a lot of these platforms, like I guess the issue is who wins in this space in terms of the competitiveness of it, because there's so many of them. Is that
that's going to be the interesting part. Who is going to win? But what is certain is AI is going to play a part in it, and totally. Wearable data is going to play a part in it, and the aggregation of that data and the impact we can have on employees is going to grow. It's just what role do we want to play in that, from either a physical provider, content provider, overlaying the strategy. And that's where our advantage is. I'm still fitness industry at heart, and our advantage is we've been doing this for a long time. We understand what strategies are required, and these are going to be the strategies that are going to make the difference in overlaying what the AI ecosystem looks like and framework looks like.
Yeah, no, totally. I understand. And then I guess, does AI open up? Well, I know it understands the opportunity because essentially we're going to be able to get more relevant content or, more practical solutions like having breaks based off stress for the fitness operator. In terms of that opportunity, I guess the opportunity is engaging with it so naturally they can feed into the facilities. Is that where you think the opportunity is?
Yeah, definitely. Being able to feed into that. And it's also, as I said before, it's opening up other markets. So for the majority of employees, when they come into these systems, they're not engaged with fitness or wellbeing or health. What they do use the chatbots for is being able to navigate their way through the support services the organisation's already investing in, whether that be flu vaccinations, whether that be booking into team meetings, whatever it may be, by actually having the content within that ecosystem around wellbeing. I call it engagement by stealth. The employee doesn't even know that they're starting to engage in wellbeing. You're using all those services they access every day, and then slowly introducing the wellbeing content, whether that be the team leader starting with a 5-minute breath before the meeting starts. And it's being able to, it's a whole marketing campaign, which once again, fitness, we're all about. It's being able to provide those different marketing campaigns month after month after month for the organisation, because they're already loaded. They're already busy. What framework? And we've got that experience. We can help you increase your engagement.
I like it. There's so many opportunities. I feel like I just want to go out there and go do this. But I guess taking it back to, I guess what's your opinion in terms of what makes for a successful corporate wellness program, like in terms of what are the key indicators and metrics that you look for?
Yeah, so once again, that you have those 4 journeys: the organizational, departmental, team, and then the content and flow. Now, the content will be from external providers. It will be content that the organization's already invested in. It'll be their resources, their assets, etc. So one of the key metrics to start with is, can we increase your rate of return on investment in all those investments that the corporate organization's already invested in? How can we actually get more out of that for you? So that's one. But then I break it down into, number one's engagement, because until we get engagement, we can't shift any of the dials. So the first 12 months, when I'm working with large organizations, and I've worked with Virgin Australia, Australia Post, Accentures, the PwCs of the world, and they want rate of return on investment. But the first conversation is, we have to get engagement. The second, the second is well-being. What can we shift in the employee's well-being? And often that's spoken about across different pillars: physical, emotional, social, career, finance, because it's not just physical. Third is health. How are we shifting? How many of your employees have done their flu vaccinations? What impact are we having on sleep, movement, etc.? And the fourth is productivity, which is the hardest.
I was going to ask.
So if we have engagement, we create shifts in well-being, we create shifts in health. Able to download all of that aggregated data and feed it into the organization. They're already measuring productivity, etc. So when I'm talking to the C-suite, how are you currently measuring your productivity? Are you measuring it? What surveys are you using? And if they're not clear on that, I say, well, I can't have an impact on it. It's your 50%. Now, often
you can't measure and all that.
Often we get pushed. You haven't made any difference, Troy, but they didn't have a starting point. So that was a big lesson I learned, is understanding where they currently sit, and then going, well, here's the engagement data, here's the wellbeing data, it's aggregated. You put that into your own Power BIs, and let's have a look at the impact, because you're the guys that are measuring productivity, absenteeism, presenteeism, etc.
And how do they manage productivity? Like, just as a business owner myself, because there's a lot of people that work a lot of hours and probably produce the same that people work less. And from a Wexer point of view, we're very just outcome based rather than anything in terms of hours and stuff. But it's hard to manage a team in that regard, because they're all used to the culture that was set before them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's really complex, because every organization measures it in a different way. So that's why I really talk about, this is the engagement data that we'll provide you to feed into. And a lot of the organizations, we use platforms such as Culture Amp, which is measuring impacts on culture. Now, if I can have an increase in positive culture, and the ones that have had the biggest shift are those that are more engaged in health and well-being, then that's the win, where I can tie that across. It's complete measure on absenteeism. And we can see absenteeism rates drop, and the biggest drop in absenteeism rates are those that are most engaged in the platform. Then we can start to create that connection. If we can see an increase in flu vaccination uptake because of the wellbeing campaign that we created, then it's all of those dials, and really understanding what dials the organization want to shift. And if you don't have clarity on that from the beginning, you're setting yourself up for failure as a provider. They're all the lessons that I learned at the front, having really uncomfortable meetings, going, what difference have you made? Have you shifted? we hadn't set any parameters to start
Yeah,
with.
what was the starting point? Like, does there need to be more data in regards to, again, coming from the insurance company's side of things, was very much in terms of, they believe, and I think they've proven it, is that fitter people are more productive than what they've seen. But is there needs to be more data on that? Because I can never see one report that pulls upon it other than someone else's own report, which we all know can be manipulated, right?
There does. There needs to be a lot more research, and we're a little bit behind here in Australia because of our insurance model. Whereas America, you can have that direct impact on the costs, etc. But there definitely does need to be more research. I was involved in a program with ABC Commercial TV where we created Happy Body at Work, and we did a large research set with Macquarie University. That was one of the largest studies that looked at the rate of return on investment with regards to productivity. The hard thing is, as you just said before, every organisation measures productivity in a different way. So they're very isolated case studies that do come out, but they are there, they are available, but it is very individual. So I always start with engagement. If you're going to invest this amount of money, this is how much it's cost you per employee to get this much engagement in the first 30 days. And then the next 60 days and the next 90. At least if they can see that investment, they've spent money, and this is how many employees are looking at that content. That's where we set success up to start with, and being really clear around that to start with. The rest will be a ripple effect across the organisation, and it's a good news story at the board level for the C-suite. It's a great story for people and culture. They go, we've invested this amount. This is how many of our employees are. So really, it's around setting up your sponsor within the organisation for success.
And that sponsor normally is what, the HR director or head of people.
HR, people and culture, but making sure you're making sure you're making them look great. Because they're the ones, when it comes to renew of your contract, that are going to be on your side. And I also talk about making sure you get to know the head of communications, making sure you get to know as many of those departmental heads as you can, so you become very sticky. Very hard for them to get with you.
And the technology stacks that go in there, is it a single architecture, so you have to take the app and everything, is it, or is it becoming more, people are kind of debundling their offering to be parts of the service, or is it all in one?
It was all in one, so it was a single sign-on, full platform ecosystem, bringing in the employment assistance program in, bringing their leadership education in. So there was learning management systems within there. But since COVID, because we evolved how we're working digitally so much, I think that's moving away to debundling, because they've got their own digital ecosystems. Makes sense. Those employees are so used to being in those systems. For me, I might be wrong, but for me, I think that's where it's going to move, where we actually create the strategy and place the content in their ecosystems and use their current digital ecosystems to create difference, because that's where they live. I agree with that. It's coming from my end. And then I guess, flowing into that is, not to be too generic in terms of question, but what are your predictions for this space? What does 5 to 10 years look like? It's really going to evolve. Chatbots are going to become the norm within these systems, whether that's the organization's chatbot, whether that's the system's chatbot that's coming in. It is going to be very, very employee-led, much more personalization. There's going to be a lot more ability to measure outcomes and put that directly into the current employee individual dashboard, but also the organizational dashboard. Because you're in their system, measurement's going to be a lot more easy. Totally agree. And then how do people connect with you, Troy? Because I think your insights is it's quite an opportunistic podcast. This, I think there's opportunities for fitness to engage so heavily, and it's so untapped. LinkedIn is my best contact. Always get back to people on LinkedIn with Troy Morgan. And engage quite heavily through LinkedIn, and that's always the best place to get me. Nice. Well, Troy, look, I really appreciate your insights. Thank you for your time, and thank you for joining me on the Wexer podcast. Thanks, Paul. Really enjoyed it. Cheers, Troy. See you, mate.